Good morning, everyone. We're all welcome to our webinar. We're glad you could join. We're commencing shortly. So if we need to get out our pens and our papers, the session will be recorded anyway. Happy Customer Service Week to each and every one of us. Thank you for being faithful and loyal customers of Human Manager Limited. Right. As I said, we'll be starting shortly. However, I have one of my colleagues here with me, Mr. Kunle.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this month's webinar from Human Manager Limited. My name is Olakunle Yusuf, and I'm the lead for the marketing and brand team of Human Manager Limited. We're happy to have you here. And the reason we're having this, we want to have this in this week of Customer Service Week. The theme for this year, 2023, is team service. And over the years, our business has been sustained by your loyalty to us. And we feel that this is one of the points that we can touch base with you and have a discussion around the things that we think are topical in the HR industry. And so that's why we're having this. The topic, of course, is customer or employee retention, balancing the scale. We're looking at this from the perspective of customer service. Which one should we prioritize? For those of us, I am one of those who sits on the fence and thinks that it is 50-50. We've had a bit of debate in-house here, and some of my colleagues have said, no, it is the geese that lays the golden egg that we should be more worried about. That is the customer that and some have leaned towards retaining employees because some customers stay because they have a outside of business relationship with some of employees as well. So without much ado, Tomiwa would start the session and will briefly introduce our panelists, which some of them are already here already. And just as I'm trying to bring in Tomiwa to start, Managing Director walked in and she would like to say a few words. So welcome with me, Ademi, the Managing Director of Human Manager Limited.
This is just to say hello and thank you for dialing in. We truly appreciate you. Happy Customer Service Week. Thank you.
Right. So Tomiwa will take over from here and we'll run the session. And please feel free to take your notes, your questions. Somebody will be curating the questions as we go along so that we can then run this process seamlessly. Thank you. And once again, happy Customer Service Week. And we wish you all the best in the times that left of the week to celebrate. Tomiwa.
All right. So once again, we're all welcome. We will get started immediately. Now, for those who have or who haven't seen the flyer, I will be the host. We have 4 panelists, right? We have 4 panelists. The first person among the panelists I will be introducing is Abiwo Olamide. Olamide, can we have you say hello to everyone?
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to have
you. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Vivian Nwogu. Hello, Vivian. Vivian, you're muted.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Yes.
Lovely outfit, by the way.
Thank you. It's our cultural day for customer service week over here.
Oh, fantastic. So everyone is dressed in their native attire, correct?
Yes, very correct.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. All right. We also have Mr. Aruosa Osemwegie. I hope I did not murder that name, sir.
You did not, but if there was a fine, it would either be petrol or dollars. So, but I will waive that for today. Well done.
All right. Thank you. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if Remi has joined the session yet. Okay. Yes. Here. She is here. Nice to have you, Ma. You're welcome to the session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for honoring our invitation.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. For those of us who do not know, Remi is a managing partner in a real estate firm. So if you are looking to diversify your portfolio in that sector, please reach out to her. She will be able to add a lot of value there. Aruosa is in consulting, all right, management consulting, recruitment, talent management, process optimization. And then we have our HR gurus who have decided to specialize in that field, Vivian and Olamide. So we will be digging into your wealth of knowledge on our theme today, customer or employee retention, balancing the scale. Like Kunle said, he's sitting on the fence. I think a lot of people will say the logical thing to do would be to sit on the fence. The capitalists might argue that the customer is the one who makes me my money. I can always hire somebody, but to find a golden goose, not that easy. Aruosa, I'll start with you. I'll start with a hypothetical. For example, customer is king, so to speak, right? Hypothetically speaking, have you ever, or if you ever had a scenario in which you had a rising talent, all right, who dropped the ball on a project, and you have a customer, very big pockets, also equally big ego, who says, this person dropped the ball, you've apologized on their behalf, they have apologized as well. However, I want this person gone. Now, when I say I want this person gone, I don't mean take them off my account. I don't mean take them off my project. I mean, show them the door, and I want them to know it was because of me. How would you handle such a scenario? You're muted, please.
Yes, you're right. I was muted. Okay, I said thanks. And again, it's a pleasure to be with you all, sharing this platform and my panelists as well. It's so you have asked the question, you know, the way these things work, you start with the easier questions first. It seems you go for the jugular. So I apologize. This isn't a simple question in real life, if we are dealing real life.
Yes.
That's one. Number two, I wouldn't wish it on any CEO. So maybe that's my best answer. I wouldn't wish it. I wish many other things, but not that. That's two. So the question is, okay, you do wish it, but it happens. Number three, here's my challenge. So if I could do this, move the person off the project, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to do that. It's reasonable, understandable, okay? Because the customer feels, I mean, maybe a high level of incompetence according to the customer, etc., etc. And it has happened to me. It has happened to me before on my first job, actually. Yes, happened to me before. And the customer, well, looking back, maybe the customer did not sound as obstinate as the one you have painted it. Okay. It's a big man, big ego, and so on. So they moved it away. And then somehow there were there were now some gaps later in the, as it was a long project over a year, as I recall, such that I had to come back. I had to come back to the project, and this time somehow I can't explain it better than saying it was just God's grace. I know people can accuse us of being religious because I can't explain it, logically. I had to be moved back. And that same organization now wanted to poach me from my consulting firm to join them, as it will
Interesting.
happen. Yes, as it will happen. So my answer is that you can move the person away. Where the person is saying move the person out of the organization, I will say this: that is too big a call a customer should be making on your business. And that begins to move the conversation away, in my view, from customer versus employee to a question about how much interference are you going to allow a customer for the best of reasons. For the best of reasons, how much interference are you going to allow a customer in your business? Now, that is a very fundamental question. That it moves from this field of customer versus employee to that field. Now, for people who feel strongly, who have, through blood and sweat built their organization, they may not take kindly to that, no matter how much the customer is. So, for those kind of people, they may have another conversation with customer say, look, I'm happy to move this, but I feel that if you don't mind, you are going above for now. Somebody may say, well, what if the customer is a shareholder? Again, it's still within now that dynamics of, okay, the person is a shareholder or the person is more on the board. How much interference would you want to allow? Because if you say, I allow it now because, well, okay, maybe we'll give the employee a golden handshake and say, oh boy, I'm sure you understand this situation. I know you dropped the ball, it wasn't your fault,
Yes.
except it was your fault, and we give him something nice. And the employee is not really offended because he or she has a big picture of you to him. But what about tomorrow? Because if it's done once by one client, it can happen again. So that's just my challenge with allowing it or with throwing that line because of exigency or because of relationship. But I would admit it's a very tough call, place to be, where the client contributes. So if it's a me again, I will explore all the things I keep learning around emotional intelligence, interpersonal skills, and relating with people, which could include engaging some other persons to speak to that client, so that we are allowed to move the person away from the project. I hope that.
Thank you very much. Those are very wise words. Remi, how much do you agree with him? Do you mediate? Do you do conflict resolution, or do you show the employee the door?
Well, in my own profession, you cannot afford to offend your very big clients. You cannot afford it because these people, there's a lot of trust. And so you want to do everything to ensure that you retain your clients. But at the same time, your employees are the asset. Because without them, you cannot even effectively serve those clients. So I actually told his line, look for ways, conflict resolution, mediation, and all that. But of course, initially, take the person out. Take him out of, the space of that client. For instance, if it is property management, for instance, you take the person doesn't go near that client's property. I've had a situation where clients to say things like, don't send that stuff to me. I must not see that stuff again, else I'll take my instruction. But he didn't say the staff should go out of the firm. Despite the fact that that bit is the staff bit, I have to withdraw him, you know, he does the job underneath, but he does not have any contact with the client, you know, because both of them are important assets of the firm, the client and the employee. So that is a very, very tough call. For me, I'll just do all I can to mediate it and ensure that at the end of the day, I can still retain that client and retain the
employee.
customer, yes, retain the client and retain the employee rather. Because like I said, as is professional, you know, it's specialization. So that particular thing that the staff is doing for the clients, you know, is specific to him. But if the client now says, you know, you may have committed one blunder or the other, you know, then you just want to ensure that the firm still retains the clientele base, and then you just ease out the staff, you know, from that particular job. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Wise views from the managing partners. I would like to go to Vivian. So Vivian, let's assume you have this scenario. You have a managing director, a CEO who has told the line of, well, I like my money, so I'm going to let this employee go. From the HR perspective, is there anything you can do to influence that decision? And if there's nothing you can do to influence that decision, how do you control or how do you manage how it affects the rest of the workforce, seeing that management is willing to let somebody go just because a big client asked?
Okay, thank you so much. So I've listened to the wise words of your colleagues, and trust me, this is really a dicey situation, right? So first and foremost, I would like to say that in as much as it's a big client, they are bringing in the money. So it's also very important that we get to realize that there can actually be a proactive measure before all of this even comes up. So I'm looking at it from the angle of, before you're going into a business with a client, there's usually like a contract that has to be signed with, you know, both parties and all of that. So this is where, you know, probably the legal departments, HR, and some other important departments come in and say, okay, for our employees' protection, you know, just put in a clause that can actually protect an employee, given that in this particular scenario, if such a thing should happen, we will take responsibility as the organization to pull out our employee from the project. However, the project will continue and will also deliver as promised. That's an angle that we can look at it. And even in doing that, when you've come across situations where you have clients that can be pissed over one or two things that are not going on right, you can also tell the line of trying to woo them back. Let me put it that way. You know, give them something, bring up something that you can use to appease them. You know, okay, top up your promises to them or whatever that you are intending to do for them. Top it up, give them added advantage or added service and all of that. But if we now come down to the situation where the MD CEO is saying, no, this client, this employee has to be kicked out of the job. That is a big one. So from the HR point of view, we need to look at a couple of things, right? We need to first and foremost look at what does our HR policy, the guidelines that we have in the organization, what does it have to say with dissolving a contract with an employee? Because all of this is very, very important. So that at the end of the day, you don't kick out an employee and the employee sues you, you know, it's a bigger problem. So these are the kind of things that we need to also have conversations around with the MD, with whosoever that is making that decision, to understand that if this goes south, the organization might even pay more dearly, you know, in terms of numbers, in terms of paying off. Because trust me, these days when employees takes an organization to the courts usually goes in favor of the employee. Majority of the times we've seen this happen. So this is something that will also bring up with the MD to see if he can also see it from that light. So I think as an HR, that is how we look at it.
All right, thank you very much. Olamide, we would like to have your take on this as well.
Thank you, Tomiwa. Having listened to everyone, our partners, and also Vivian, I would just like to add, from my own perspective, I would go with, say, I'll discuss with the MDCU to say, okay, so have we made findings as to what happened? So have you been able to find out evidences? Are you sure it's not a communication issue as regards from the client's perspective? We also need to find out evidences, and in a situation whereby, oh, it shouldn't affect the rest of the staff, we need to get our facts right to say this was what happened. And that communication needs to also be known to all staff, or will I say the rest of the team members, to say this was what happened and this is what led to this. So they don't get influenced or get scared that, oh, their job is actually at stake. So by the time they have that knowledge and understanding, they will know that, okay, this is why this happened. And we know if we actually do what is right, our job is also safe.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Moving forward, but there's something I might get to later that Vivian raised, which is in contracts, clauses that protect employees. Do we do enough of that in Nigeria, Remi? Do we have enough clauses or contracts that have protection for the organization? I mean, we all go into projects with the aim of satisfying the customer, but from a risk point of view to ourselves as an organization, as the service provider, do you think Nigerian employees do enough to protect their Nigerian employers, do enough to protect their employees who they send out to the field? Remi, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, for the blue chip companies, I want to believe they take time out to do that. But for the companies that are sole proprietorship, sole proprietorship businesses, you really have contracts, but you just ensure that you protect your employees as much as you can. Size does not go against your organizational goals.
All right. Thank you very much. Aruosa, do you have a preference between paper, well, should I say paper or text questionnaires and physical interviews? Some people don't believe either one works. Now, I'm asking this question from the point of view of improving services to clients and improving the work environment, work experience, and career development of your employees. How would you go about getting valuable feedback from your customers and from your staff?
Thank you. So getting valuable feedback is key. Organizations, in my view, do not prioritize that sufficiently. I feel that it's almost a fail mark to a certain degree. But I will give you one of the sources of customer feedback that is very valuable, but in my view, is not well used, and that is the front line. The employees, the customer success people that relate with the client, the people that are doing the sales. Anybody who is in a role that has, I'm not talking about contact center and so on. They are part of it. They are part of it.
Okay.
Anybody whose role requires that the person interface, whether it's from a sales perspective or whether it's from a ongoing operational perspective, or then resolutions and support from the contact center, are a rich source of feedback about the customer. And so before you start to consider going expensive, I mean, it's all, I'm happy for you to call a consultant. I mean, I'm a consultant, so if you call us to support you, we're happy to do that. But I'm saying that a very rich source that doesn't require you to call anybody is just listening to your people. Ask your people what is the unfiltered, because even if you look at the contact center sometimes, the way they are being led, in some instances, the metrics, what is being measured, what is being talked about may occasion that contact center people give filtered feedback, because they feel that Oga or Madam may not believe or want to hear it, or the feedback may sound like something they themselves have said before. So getting unfiltered feedback, your employee about the customer, first of all, your employees are a great resource. And you can do that depending on the culture, what has come to work. Anything from simple emails to forms will be good. But again, why forms for employees that are dispersed everywhere? A simple Google form or a Microsoft form would take care of that. But now, I always say this, and I've been saying this for decades. Do not ask for feedback and not appear to use feedback. It's worse off. So this is a trick on management street. It's just a trick. But it's a useful wise, which is this: ensure that every time that you ask for feedback, it's deliberate about saying that we were able to implement something or a set of things, no matter how small, that you can implement. Or else the next time you ask, no matter the way, the mechanism you use, whether you send email or the fill forms or you do interviews, or they are not going to bother. You will now be struggling to get people to speak up. So that's a big part for getting from the customer through your employees. And then it applies to customers as well. Here is it. Let me tell you the second part of this quickly. You now want to send me a form, or you want to accost me somewhere to give you feedback. Hello, the first time I called your contact center or I spoke to your staff, I was raking and ranting. So how do I even, you need to, because that comes to equity must come with clients, all right? It takes two to tango. You need to even show that you have mined what the customers have said already. And that's why speaking to an employee is a very great source before you now use all of this. Now, it applies to employees as well. Any day, whether it's HR, I've spoken to EXCO, says they want to conduct an employee feedback. If you ask me, better don't ask us, employees, or ask us and do something. The better way, the better thing to do for those who are more concerned about doing it properly. This is what I would say. Because organizations have some of this employee surveys they do annually. Have a culture where, and again, this is very important. It's important that this is built on an existing culture, or else people can perceive BS from far, from very far. In fact, they will perceive it from home. Okay, so is to ensure that every year we are able to not only document, we are able to set up a team that takes as many things as we can attend to. And then there are going to be some things that, well, for different reasons, we have a challenge. Transparently address them and say, look, we have a challenge here. Some transparently address means that you will tell them why. Some you may not be able to tell them why, but you will at least say that, look, we acknowledge this. But guess what? All you are likely going to end up with, they ask us 10 key things. If you are forward looking, if you are employee centric, you will be able to say, in this 50% is on the works, another 20% is something that we're looking at for next year. So every year, the feedback gets robust. It is that climate that ensures effectiveness in the next year, whichever method you use. So yes, you have asked me a question about method. I'm saying that effectiveness depends a lot on the climate around it and what you do with what exactly people are already saying. Okay? Because if you ask, so if you use paper and you didn't do well the last time, it doesn't matter. If you use, if you develop an app for this purpose, you know, it's all app off, it's all funky. It still doesn't matter. So the collection mechanism, which brings convenience, is advised, but getting value from a survey, whether it's customer or employee, depends on what you did the last one, or how you position that you're going to do something in case you haven't done one before. How you position, okay, that this is a promise we can make to you. We want to listen. But by the way, and I'll quickly add this, preferably, we must lead and build our managers. You know, I'm a big proponent of manager cultivation. I don't want to call it training. It's cultivation. You know, like the whole grooming. You know, build our managers to represent the ear of the organization, because they are the ones that are going to be picking up signals and those comments from employees about customers and from employees about the work. And then that way, that begin to gather and do things about that. All right. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that. Olamide, there is a problem of quiet quitters. So for those of us who might not know who quiet quitters are individuals who they're doing the barest minimum to keep their jobs. They're not underperforming, right? But they're not doing they're not doing as much as they can. Now, there is a saying that exit interviews are too late, right? By the time you're having an exit interview, the person has submitted their resignation. As a matter of fact, as far as they're concerned, they're even doing you a favor by telling you why they're leaving, right? So as HR, right, how do you influence the culture of a company to do, whether it's planned or random interviews with your employees, right? We find, I don't want to single out any generation, but I may be speaking about the generation that is the last alphabet among the alphabets, who say they would appreciate if their employers had counselors, right? Or people they can just speak to, right? Some people just bottle things up. Some people don't want to express certain things because they think it would be unprofessional, or they don't want to appear weak. So how can HR influence the culture of a company to not wait until somebody has resigned to start to ask, what was going on? Why are you leaving? What did we do wrong? How do we, proactively keep our best talent without waiting for them to go over the edge?
Okay, so I would begin with, there's a point Mr. Rosa mentioned about managers, in which managers, I feel, the mindset I've always had as regards that is that managers should actually be trained on how best to manage their staff, because there are some managers who don't know how, they're not leaders, they're not good leaders who can accommodate staff and things like that. So if you have managers who are properly trained, they will know how best to actually manage their staff. whereby, oh, you feel these are top talents in my team, so how can I put them in leadership roles? How can I give you responsibilities that will make you feel valued? And also from which, like you said, from the HR perspective, is more like we having meetings with managers and letting them know all these processes. And for top talents, we can actually have meetings, one-on-one meetings with them to find out from them, okay, so what do you think we can actually do to make your job role better, or to make you feel more valued, or to actually even make you feel more valued in your role? And we can also carry out, let's say, anonymous surveys. It might not even necessarily be annually. It can be quarterly, depending. So you could, and by the time it's anonymous, many of them are able to air their minds and what they feel about the culture of the company, or what they feel about all the processes of the organization, and the things they feel would actually help them grow in their career. So these things there are ways where we can get their feedback. And like Mr. Aruosa mentioned, anytime we are getting feedback from staff, you should ensure you actually get to implement 1, 2, or 3. Because the truth is, if you keep getting feedback from staff, you keep getting feedback and you do nothing about it, believe me, next time you ask them for feedback, they are not going to respond at all. So the best way to just always get feedback consistently from them is to ensure we implement at least 1 or 2 or thereabouts, and you communicate to them to let them know this is what we are doing. And that's another thing, consistent communication with staff, consistent communication with your people to let them know this is what we are doing. These are the plans we are having. But if you keep quiet to say, okay, we are planning, some of them in that process, the employment market is very competitive. Next thing you see, they've gone. So it's consistent communication with them to let them know this is what we are doing. In 2 months or in 1 month, we plan to take you for a certain training to improve you in this particular role. This is what we plan to do, that and that. So consistent communication with them helps them to realize, yes, the organization is doing something about them, or they're actually, and also to reward them. Top talents, reward them, recognize them for what they've done. Oh, they do a certain thing. You can say, okay, for what you've done, go for a certain training to help you grow in your career, or you also promotions, things like that. So all those are ways you can actually get feedback from let's say the so-called generations, and you'll get to retain them actually, basically. So that's it from my end.
All right, thank you very much. Vivian, you're muted.
Okay. Hi, sorry about that. So Olamide and Mr. Aruosa has really said, in fact, they have touched all nooks and crannies of this conversation. So I want to come in from the generation that we are scared, we are afraid to call. So this set of people, one thing that I realized is they want to belong. They want to have a sense of belonging. They want to be recognized. They want to feel valued. They want to be assured that their voice matters. So if you call out for, if you give out surveys for them to fill, and then they pour out their heart in filling that survey, and 1 month, 2 months, 6 months down the line, there is no feedback, no communication, nothing from the organization that shows that, okay, we even heard you and we are working towards this thing. Trust me, the next time you will see very little responses, yes, from them. So that's one thing. They want to be valued. They want to know that, yes, whatsoever that I'm bringing in, I'm also receiving. So that's the first thing. Open door policy. The organization should have this positive work culture whereby these set of people realize that they can walk into their manager's office. In fact, they can walk up to the MD's office and say, this is something I feel we can be doing to improve the organization. This is something that I feel we can do to ensure that our brand is improved outside. So these are the things that management really need to look into. So when we now talk about the method of collecting feedback, just like Mr. Aruosa said, it really do not matter per se. The major thing here is how well do we make use of this feedback. But if I should talk about the method, I would say that first and foremost, one thing about surveys is that how anonymous is it? So that the employees do not feel like, quote unquote, we are witch hunting them. You understand? So how anonymous is the survey? This is something that we should look into. So if you want to do a one-on-one interview, you will get very good responses only if the organization culture is already positive and open-minded. The employees are already feeling comfortable. They already believe that they are a part of this organization. They're a part of the success story. So when you call for one-on-one interviews, you call for stay interviews and all of that, you see them pouring out their hearts. But when the organization is just trying to build up that culture, probably it's best that the organization tell the routes of online surveys, or even bringing in AI to be able to deploy this kind of surveys. So that is for the method of collecting feedback. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Before we proceed, for those of us who are in the session, if you have questions, please feel free to drop the questions in the comment box. To Remi, I wouldn't want to go into the doom and gloom of the numbers where the Nigerian economy is concerned, but everyone who is running a business is reviewing fees and figures, right? So now, considering economic realities, okay, how do you manage customers who, I'll give you two scenarios. Scenario one, you have a customer whose business is also struggling. You want to increase your fees or your rates, and this customer is saying, Remi, we've been at this together for years. Can you give me a consensus? Can you consider me, right? How do you manage that? Somebody who you've had relationship with, maybe from day one of your business. That's scenario one. Scenario two is somebody who tells you, look, I don't care what you say about the economy, but this your fees, this your rates, they are unreasonable, right? Now, as a business owner, as a service provider, how flexible are you willing to go when it comes to negotiation to keep customers, right? Do you put your foot down? Do you say, okay, I'll go, we turn it into pricing. We are pricing your professional services. All right. So how do you manage those two scenarios? One, a customer who says, look, honestly, I can't afford, but I like doing business with you. Can you consider me? Another customer that says, if you like, consider me. If you like, don't consider me. I can't take more than 1% or 2% increase. If not, I'm gone. How do you handle those two scenarios?
Thank you very much. Incidentally, I've been in both scenarios. Okay, the first one, thankfully, my practice is a regulated practice.
Okay.
My state surveyor and valuer, and we have the State Surveyor and Valuers Registration Board of Nigeria. So our fees actually regulated is according to that scale of professional fees we can charge. Okay. Fees is actually 10%. But many people don't like to pay 10%. So that 10% is a percentage of the rent you collect, or a percentage of the sales proceeds if you sell a property. Then for valuation, the scale is actually graduated. Maybe the initial 1 million, there's a particular fee. Then if the value of the property is up to like 3-5 million, then you take a lower percentage, it's graduated. So that thing about the scenario about somebody's business struggling may not really fit in, because it is based on what the fees of the fees you collect is based on the income generated by the property.
Okay.
It's a fixed percentage. But when you now talk about negotiating, yes, you have to, because it's becoming a red ocean. It's going to be a reduction because you have a lot of, permit me to use the word quacks, those who are not estate surveyors and valuers that are also working, in that space. You have a lot of agents and things. So if you don't do the business, then you want to take the business out. But I a principle, because somebody told me many years back, one of my clients, who said businesses are run on principles. If you want to bend every time, then you find yourself out of business. So I make sure that the least I can do is 5%. And that 5% is based on my inputs. I will look at my inputs, what's my input, and say, okay, 5% is ideal for this property. Especially properties where you are more or less like a rent collector. But properties where I have to do a lot to collect my fees, no. I'll insist on 10% or I don't touch it so that I can deliver service. But if I don't give you quality service, you complain. So I allow them, I explain. So I explain to them it costs money to deliver quality service. So for me to give you service, you must be willing to pay for it. Then the other scenario you're talking about, those who say they are not willing to pay, I have a particular client, and it's a very big client of mine. I manage a lot of properties for him. So I tread very softly with that client. I don't want him to get upset at all. I carried out a sort of feedback, recently. I sent out some form, and this particular client was like, oh, there should be something you should lose if you are not giving me what I need. Then later he came around and said, okay, henceforth my fee has to be 7.5%. I was still willing to do. 7.5 is still fair. So I was still willing to do. But what I did from my own end was to now reduce the number of times, we visit the property rather than 4 times in a year, reduce it to like 3 times in a year. So it will be a win-win situation for both of us. So I did that. Then there are others who just insist, oh, they don't want to pay to 5%. I don't force it because I will not be able to deliver service. It's money to deliver service. In this present economy, cost of transportation, cost of telecommunication, everything is expensive. And we have to do all that to be able to give service, especially when you have recalcitrant tenants. There are some clients, they become very stubborn, and you have to keep going and going just to be able to get them to pay. You're spending so much money, and at the end of the day, the client now says, no, I'm not willing to pay for you. You run out of business. So in trying to retain your clients, you must also ensure that you are in a position to offer quality service to them. So that you must balance it out. So that at the end of the day, you don't even lose them in trying to bend to what they are requesting from you, which which you may not be able to do.
All right, thank you very much. Aruosa, I want to paint another hypothetical, right? This one has to do with your reputation. So, have you ever had a scenario where you consulted with a certain customer, you gave recommendation, you gave them an output, right? So maybe you said, go north. The customer looked at what you gave to them. They said, you know what, we will pay your going rate, we'll pay you what you invoiced us, but we're going south, right? And unfortunately, things went south with them. And maybe in the news, maybe external auditors, people start asking questions. Didn't you have a consultant on this? Who was the consultant? What did the consultant do? What was the consultant looking at? Now, granted, you made your money, right? But the customer chose to take your advice under advisement. Things have gone south, and now you are painted in a bad light. one, how do you from a mental point of view, how do you get yourself out of that? How do you quickly separate yourself from that failure? One. Two, do you come up with a policy? Do you come up with an agreement within yourself that, look, I can't do business with people who won't listen? Or do you keep charging your fee as long as they come knocking?
So thanks. there are too many people who don't listen, and sometimes those people may be off in different situations. So that is off the table, because also you don't know who will not listen. Well, there are instances, I will take that back. There are instances where you have an idea of a customer who will not listen. So, for example, I have a customer, and he's also a potential customer. We don't work before, and there's opportunity. I have recently, the final decision I made within myself is not to proceed. So I'm using different tactics because I suspect strongly the customer may not listen or may not take, the advice. He has his views, a lot of them good views. So yeah, so I was good. Other than that, there are also many cases you don't know who will not listen. So that's of the thing. If you are in a situation where, so that's why it's a good thing to, you have your reports that you submit. So in case there is a blowback, you can always, and there blowback are different levels. So different levels. One of the big four firms that I work with had a national blowback many years ago. Some people may be aware of it because they consulted for an organization that is in our faces, in our public life, and there was a blowback, and they may have, you see, and again, you can't say, even for a big international consulting company, you can't say the government is lying. You cannot say the government is lying. But everything is there. All your recommendations is there for anybody who comes to ask you directly, or where you are able to have a closed door session with certain other stakeholders to say, oh, this is what we actually recommended. And then they had that it appears they had some other data after your recommendation that they were privy to, that you are not privy to. So you are not saying that they deliberately told you they would do. You are just saying that, well, by the time we did the work, based on all the data and all the work we did, this was our recommendation. Probably they had some other information, data that they used that went on. So you would say that you have that as a fallback on that level. In terms of the mental, how do you adjust? Honestly, you are in business. You are in business. You say, you just have to wear your big boy pants and say, look, this happens. Of course, hey, there's a conversation about, do you work for that client again? And to be honest, it's not impossible to work with the client again, because they may come back and explain that, well, we were in dire straits, we were pushed, we were between between two walls, so we just had to, but we won't do it again. We're happy with the service. It was a judgment call we had to make. We won't make that kind again. How do you say that how do you know they won't do it again, even for such a specific client? So it's difficult. So that is a fallback we have, and you help yourself mentally by realizing that, look, this is not Nollywood. Maybe you are in business, there are risks you would have to grapple with here and there. And when some of those risks crystallize, unfortunately, as far as on the legal side, you are covered, because this is more repetition, so it's not so much legal anymore, except if social risk now where, for example, they are now saying that you advise and so on and so forth. And this a version of actually happened to that client many years ago. But again, I look back and I think even that big player, which was government in simple sense, was also helpful to smoothing things out in generally for that organization, and so they got more work and later on and so on. So that helps. So you just have to snap out of it. Unfortunately, you won't always know who will not listen, but where you have an idea now, which is why when clients come to you, different types of clients. There are clients where you advise them and say, and that's why as well, even from your communication is important. And this happens all the time. I've had several. It's important to say to the client, this is, and even if it's just email documentation, this is our recommendation of what you, I'm not even talking of something we've done. Okay. We are deciding the work to be done. This is, we feel you should do 1, 2, 3. We feel you should do it in that order, 1, 2, 3. But if you feel otherwise, we are willing to go along to do it that way. But it's important that you know that, well, because we are professionals in this field, this is our advice. That's even a different situation. It's also the situation where you find clients wanting you to only help them to design and not implement. Anytime a client asks me, I always say, yes, it will cost you more for us to work with you to implement and even to get your people to adopt, because that's another level of implementation. But there are clients who feel that, well, that means you are going to be in this relationship for quite a long time. And we say, well, that's the reality. But hey, there are also ways you can do that. You can set up an internal consulting team. And I've had clients like that. And there's a client, you know, a big organization that is a legacy organization in the power sector. I would say that I was impressed by the change management internal one that they instituted. So you could give them those advice, but if we stop with the design, this is what will help you. Okay. Again, they may listen, they may not listen, which was back to your point, which is where I started from. We never know, and we cannot say we can't talk to people who don't listen. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. To HR, before I go to HR, let me hear from our partners, right? I would hear from the partners and still push this question to HR. Now, I'll start with Remi. By way of employee retention, talent retention, do you think it's possible to give someone too much too soon? So let me explain a little more. You have a second-year employee, right, who maybe by virtue of their education, their command of the internet, or how to use a computer, how to use software, when you look at their outputs, you find that there are certain people who are maybe 6, 7, 8 years in, you know, they have 5, 4 years on that second-year employee, but they're not making your business as much money as that second-year employee is making for your business. Is there a scenario where you say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to 4 or 5x this person's salary just so that I don't lose them? Because here is somebody who is just 2 years into the business, and when I look at the output, the revenue this 2-year professional is bringing in, there are 6, 7-year-old professionals who are not making this much money for my business. Remi, do you pace that person's reward, or is there a point where you think to yourself, I think this lady might go somewhere else. I think this guy's eyes might be outside, right? I'll use money and tie him down, or I'll use money and tie her down.
Okay, well, thank you. Incidentally, I was in such a scenario when I was working for my employees, and my employers rather, many years back. I will not want to mention the name of the firm, but it's a firm that we had a lot of targets. We were target driven. So once you meet your target,
Yes.
And then we have this annual performance assessment. We used to call it APA forms. We used to fill these APA forms every year. So after the assessment, you know, they will promote you. Some people got promotion like 2 grades, 3 grades, and then some were demoted. Some were actually asked to resign. And then some were actually sacked. Okay, so in that firm, I joined the firm in 1994. In 1996 January, I was a manager. And there were people I met in the firm that I became a partner, and they were still just surveyors, maybe like surveyor 2, surveyor 3. They were not even managers. So in that, yes, so in that firm, your output actually determines your level in the firm. So it doesn't matter whether you're a Methuselah, you know, you've been in the firm for years, and then somebody just came in, one Solomon just came in. No, it depends on your output. So what you do determines your growth in the firm. So, and that growth also comes with some financial compensation, as it were, rewards, as it were. Yes. So, and I buy that idea. I also operate it in my firm. So if you're good, then I ensure that I give you the enabling environment to thrive more, and then of course reward you, and then you grow. Incidentally, because we are professionals, you know, I encourage them to start writing their professional exams early, and then I take on the course. Those who are doing well, you know, so that within the shortest possible time, you can become a corporate member of the institution. I mean, that's the best any employer can do for an employee, you know, in our profession.
All right. Aruosa, over to you.
Okay. So I mean, so first off, there's a cautionary note about rewarding the person with cash that is not in your policy. So let me quickly say the ones that you should do and you must do, and that's part of what Remi has just said. You know, let the person get the promotions. So that means the person is likely to get faster promotion. So you can do that. So that's already a reward that the person can enjoy. For the person who, like in the scenario you painted, it's in a revenue generating position. Okay, so if it's an organization where there are commissions, again, the person can earn those commissions. So that's an indirect way, but because it is already baked into the commission design or the remuneration model or even the policy, then it is fine. So the person is already earning sales commissions, the person is getting promotions and so on. So that is going on. In fact, I would recommend that it is possible that if you do not have exceptional promotion in your policy, that is something you can also exploit and create it. And you can create it because that's how policies arrive and say, you know, so you create it at the same time that person gets, but that means that it's now existing as a policy that others can also accept if they meet those criteria. You can quickly set up, you know, for transparency and all that, set up a panel that the person goes to and so on. So all those are possible. Other things you definitely want to consider for this person, because you are painted a scenario where we want to be careful about two things. Keeping the person, okay, so the person is not poached or gets a bit dissatisfied, I'm doing a much, or you also don't want to rock the system. All right. So those keeping our mind, our eyes on those is very important. So other thing you have to explore is training. Training, because and that training can serve different, at least two purposes. So there's a cautionary note about using training as a reward. Yeah, that is another conversation. Some of our friends in the public sector sometimes paint training in that respect. No, we're not talking about that. So this is an example. I'll give an example. This person needs to build leadership and managerial skills faster than the existing path. So get the person into one. The people at this level who are not getting that training, but because the person has shown that I'm bringing results higher, so you are creating what some of us call a crucible experience. A crucible experience is just creating a heightened condition for something to grow or happen at a certain time. All right. So you are creating a crucible experience that may have an appearance of a reward. Take, for example, the person is a management trainee. Somebody will say, the person can do it in Magodo here. Well, the person can do it in Manchester as well. All right? So it's a management trainee, but it's not Magodo, it's Manchester. So you are developing the person, but you're also showing that, look, this is an opportunity to develop a prime leadership managerial, because you are now getting there. Because we also want to be able to replicate this success in other ones, we need to prepare you faster. And some people argue that learning is richer when done overseas. Maybe they have a point, and that may be a chance to exploit that for this person's sake. So those are things, but outrightly giving the person cash that is outside of policy is something you have to, as much as you can. Now, there's nothing wrong, I will add, that the CEO on his own, to say, Madam, in fact, send me your account personally, because you are trying to get both. So you are not rocking the system, but you are showing we value you at the same time. So it's just one-off and so on, but it's always better if we've already baked those things into that policy. Thanks.
Okay, so in essence, give the person a golden handshake.
I will say you said so.
All right, Vivian, the scenario I painted, is that a time bomb? Rewarding people too much too soon, right? Even though from a revenue point of view, it's obvious that this person is bringing the company more money, more value than someone who is 2, 3, 4 levels ahead of them. Do you pace their growth in the company? Do you have advice with Aruosa that, okay, look, calm down, right? Or do you advise Remi that I know you want to reward this person, I know this, you see yourself in this person, you want to groom this person for management, but don't give them too much too soon? How does HR manage that? Primarily because at the end of the day, we're all human beings, right? Granted, the person might be a significant value add, but how do we ensure that in rewarding that person, right, we don't leave a sour taste in the mouth of everybody else? Or do we just not care, right? She has earned it, she has earned it. Give her a promotion. Anybody that wants to swell up, let them swell
up. They should not swell up, please. Okay, so my question is, from an HR standpoint, does the organization have a clear career development plan? It's very important. Okay. So, majority I've actually seen a case whereby someone is not even confirmed. This guy is good, right? And in less than 6 months, he has been promoted twice. Yes, I've seen this actually happen. He has been promoted twice, and what this leaves is, a couple of other people in the system become demotivated. They are not happy. You start hearing talks in the corridor. No, he's a very important personnel. He knows the MD directly. You start hearing these kind of conversations coming up, and it is very dangerous because it is even harder to control when it starts escalating in that manner. So the HR of every organization should strive to have like a very clear-cut, well-communicated career development plan for every employee.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
not that you are doing well in a particular position does not equal immediately to promotion and increase in pay.
Okay.
Does not necessarily equal to that. You know, there are
Okay.
other ways that you can actually tell this employee that, oh, you are really doing well and your value is seen, very well seen, and very much appreciated. Now, what are these ways? They are
Okay.
not financial. They are non-financial rewards. Mr. Aruosa said, "Give them a golden handshake." I am on that table, but okay. Well, but the thing is, you can always recognize them. You can praise them. You can give them. Organization can throw like do have like there's this thing we do CEO awards. It's actually a big thing. Like throw a really big party. You know, call out these people, give them flags, give them letter of recognition. LinkedIn mention, very important. Make use of social media. These days, social media is like a new gold, you know. Praise them very well. Let them feel appreciated. You can give them certificates. Mr. Ross also mentioned training. In as much as we do not want to say categorize training as a benefit, but this can also go a long way in, you know, making the employee feel valued. Another thing is job enrichment. You can actually, you've seen that this person has, you know, this value in so and so place, and he can actually do more. You can give him profitable projects. Let him own this project as his baby or as her baby. You know, let her feel that, okay, yes, that this is something I did, or this is something I have done. Let it be a part of his or her portfolio. You know, it can also help the staff in the long run. And also, it's also good that organization should not set a precedent that they know that will not be viable in the long run. That
Okay.
is, yes, it is very, very important. You see situations where we can promote, give them double promotion and all of that is fine. It's really good. But if it's not going to be viable in the long run, let's not tell that route. You understand?
Okay.
Now, in developing a career development plan, you can have things like um fast track programs where
Okay.
someone with a system that is like 1 year and has done exceptionally well, you know, you can give the person a double promotion and all of that, reward them, let it be seen by every employees. It also motivates other people that are not really doing well to actually do well, you know, so that they can also tap into that and get rewarded along that line. That can also be a route that HR can take. So this is also even two sides of the coin because while we are looking at the employees that are doing well, we should also look at the employees that are not really doing well. They have stayed so long in the organizations and they are giving the barest minimum. What is going on? We should ask questions. We should have conversations with the line managers, with the individuals themselves. Let us know exactly where they feel HR or the organization can come in to help them. And this is also where this feedback that we have spoken of already comes in. How often does the line manager, does the HR involve employees, ask them very important questions? How can we come in? How can we help you? And you'll be amazed to see the kind of responses that employees will give as to how they need
Help.
help from yes. Also, you should set clear expectations because when you apart from some roles that deals with figures like marketing and all of that, some
Yes.
support roles that do not really have this figure based KPIs, for instance,
Yes.
it becomes dicey. So let everyone know exactly what they're expected to do.
Mm-hmm.
You can do yes, you can run it as OKRs or just your regular KPIs and appraisal system where you do twice a year or whatever. But make sure that their expectations are very clear cut so that when they are being appraised, they are appraised based on what they have been given to do. This also goes without saying that it's very important to recognize people that are really doing well. So, in as much as I'm saying that, okay, there are non financial rewards that we should give them, we should
Mm-hmm.
always, go the extra mile to appreciate employees that are doing their best, their top performance in every organization. So these people are like your talents, and you don't want to lose them for whatever reason. So go the extra mile, get exceptional approval if that is what is going to help you retain these people. But make sure that you do everything within your power to actually retain them. So that is the
All
HR.
right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Olamide, I would like your take on that, but I also like to add something to it. Now, towards the end, she was speaking along the lines of appraisal. Remi also touched on appraisal. Now, I don't want to say in Nigeria, because I've come to discover that a lot of things that we say is only in Nigeria is because you are not interested in other countries. Human beings are flawed all over the world. Now, we've seen a lot of things, like Vivian said, those who whose KPIs might not be clear target based, right? We start to see subjective appraisal, right? Where the line manager is looking at your appraisal form and says, I'll give you a 3, I'll give you a 4, right? How do we influence culture of organizations to objectively, right? Objectively review the performance of staff? Is HR handicapped? Where does management come when HR comes with these policies and line managers are not adopting them, right? How can HR further influence, or does HR have to escalate to management to say, look, for us to accurately review the performance of our employees, line managers need to adopt this process, but they're not listening. So how can HR influence the culture of an organization for more objective than subjective review of performance? Because take, for example, somebody who is customer facing, someone who is in operations, works till 8 p.m., 9 p.m., doesn't get a promotion. And then someone who just finished NYSC, makes a lot of money, gets a promotion, and say, and you met me here. Do you know what time I close? Do you know what I've been through for this organization? How can HR influence that company culture? Or do you always have to escalate to management to change these things?
Thank you, Toma. Okay, so to reiterate the earlier question before I address the question on the KPI, so literally from my own perspective, one of the things that employers can also look at in rewarding these employees who are outstanding, so to speak, is we can also look at incentive. So if, for say, you don't want to move them too high to a managerial role or something, you can create an incentive plan, like Mr. Aruosa said earlier about, you can create a new policy to say, okay, so this is the new policy. If you meet up with social targets, you get this social incentive. So by the time you have that, so that way they are actually performing outstandingly and also getting a reward for it. And which also helps other staff to meet up to that target as well. They also are trying and striving so hard to also do better, whereby, because they know there is an incentive that comes with it. So those both the normal employees and also the outstanding employees, they all benefit from it. And the other things that can also be looked at, other speakers have mentioned, and is about the rewarding system. So you have other managers who are in a particular kind of plan. You can move those outstanding employees to those plans. Say there is like where I worked before, you can have a dollar plan whereby investments, the returns on the they invest a certain amount on each of these managerial staff, and at a certain point the returns is being given. So you can put them in some of these plans whereby, yes, you get to get rewards, even if you don't want to move them too fast to some certain roles. And another thing is, as regards training and development, like Vivian mentioned, for this staff, the truth is the knowledge they have at that point, whereby it's helping them to bring in more business or whatever, it can become obsolete. So you need to consistently train them to keep up with the standards as the world evolves, as everything evolves. They need to meet up and keep up with it. So they themselves personally feel like, yes, the organization is investing in me. So therefore, I have to also put in my best and keep up with it consistently and on. Then moving on to KPIs, how best HR can actually get to influence line managers is provide data. Because the thing is, no matter how many times we talk and talk and talk and talk, people, if we don't see evidence, just like we always say, if we don't get to see evidence, if we don't see data, nobody gets it. They won't take you serious. Nobody take you seriously. So you need to provide data to say, okay, so this is the data. We've used objective or qualitative process of doing the KPI processes, and this is the outcome. But the process whereby we now go on to quantitative method of KPIs to say, oh, you're able to sell 1,000 products, or we gave you a target of 1,000, are you able to meet up with 800? This is what you get. Things like that. It helps to be able to measure accurately what will I say the performance of each staff. So you need to provide that data to say, if we go through the qualitative, this is going to be the outcome, and you can end up having your staff resign. But whereby you are actually rewarding your staff based on what they are doing quantitatively, you make them know that yes, you can still have your staff, whereby the staff know that yes, this is the effort I'm putting into my work and I'm being rewarded accordingly. Not that they're assuming that this is what I'm doing and they're just giving me, whether it's a 2 or it's a 3 or you did exceedingly well or you did So that data needs to be provided and to show to managers. And by the time, let's say managers are not even accepting it, when you go to management as well, you present the same data to them to let them know this is going to be the outcome if you go through this route, and this is also going to be the outcome if you go through this other route. So by then you can get them to buy into your idea.
All right. I think we are gradually ramping this up. We have a question in the comments for Remi. It says, do you think an employee should be promoted based on qualification or experience? So I think there's some organizations who will review your salary if you go and get a master's or you go and get a PhD. So I think this person is asking, right, does more paper evidence that I've gone to school, right, qualify me for a promotion, or should it be experience?
Well, don't be very direct. On your job is what determines your promotion. You can claim certifications that do not match the level of performance that the organization is actually looking at. So your performance is what actually dictates your promotion. Like I was, I just put a little note when I saw that question, that promotion presupposes that the person has worked in the organization. So that means the organization actually has some sort of data on the person. So the organization actually can like measure the person's effectiveness, his efficiency, his productivity, and all that. So if this qualification now improves the person's performance, of course, the person will get promoted. But if with that qualification, the performance is still at the same level, nobody will. I know Remi Onaeko will not promote such. Thank you.
All right, there's a saying by popular speaker Mike Murdoch. He says, "You will never be promoted until you become overqualified for your present assignment." So your employer will feel the need to promote you when your outputs surpasses where you currently are. It means clearly, right, you've gone past this level. All right. I want to thank the panelists for joining. Just one round of one question I want everybody to give a feedback on, which is in your profession at any point in time, what's the kindest thing anyone has ever done for you? I'll start with Remi. What's the kindest thing in your professional career anyone has ever done for you? You don't need to call names. Just
well, okay, let me say something happened which was not my fault, and I was punished. I was given a 1 week salary deduction just when it was time for my wedding. So it was really hard on me. And I just decided that, well, there's no point. My managing partner, I think I just say hello, sir, and I just want past him. So on my wedding day, you wouldn't believe, and my wedding took place in Benin. I was working in Lagos. On my wedding day, when we were about going for the reception, I just heard will the bride walk over, will the bride indicate, where she is for her managing partner to meet up with her? Something like that. The managing partner was going to come over to take a photograph with me, my managing partner. I wasn't expecting him. So for the managing partner to have come all the way from Lagos, I had just been punished, just before my wedding. So, for me, and then he came with his wife and his baby. That just was it for me. So.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Aruosa.
Okay, I think one thing that happened to me, or that I want to give us as well as for thought, is that I struggle to answer that question, and that should be a wake-up call that maybe I and some other people are not doing enough kind things to people that we work with. If it's a bit difficult to come up with several, so it's good for thought for me. I just want to leave it with everybody here as well. Everybody listening, maybe we are not doing enough. So I struggled, but I do recall once I was in Dire Straits, I had some accommodation challenge, and I spoke to my MD at that time. And what he didn't own the company.
Okay.
So, and there wasn't any policy like that. So what he did was he gave me some money on his own. I think it was 100,000 or so at that time. This same person also, yes, I was head of HR, but I wasn't a management person, but I was head of HR. We were about 200, then we became about 300 man organization later on. So I still reported dotted line to him. So another thing he did as well, thinking about it now, was also there was an unwritten agreement that if I work late, which was often, that time my office was in Apapa, that one of the drivers could take me with the car, with one of the project cars home. And that time I used to live in Vega, so it was a bit of a distance. And the driver is still going to go back to the office to park the car. So looking back, I think those two by that same person were very, very kind of him, because they were helpful. The money and then that opportunity to be dropped at home. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. Vivian?
Okay, so for me, it may sound cliche, yeah, but I think one very standout moment for me where I received such kindness that really, really overlooked my heart was when I got a thank you for doing a job that I have not actually done yet. So yes. So what happened was in my very early days, yeah. So I worked in an organization where I was working directly with a very toxic boss, like really, really toxic boss. So when I left that organization and went to my next organization, my boss, as I then told me, "Oh, Vivian, I need you to handle da 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 da. Thank you so much." Somebody told me thank you. What's going on? It was so strange, so strange. I did not realize the level of psychological damage I had gotten from where I was
Idiot.
coming from. I went to the restroom and I wept. I sent a thank you message to them. I said, "Thank you so much for telling me thank you." The man was amazed. He was like, "Vivian, are you okay?" And then I had to tell him my experience. And this man took me as his first personal project. Anytime he was going to have a meeting with the MD or with one senior leader, he would carry me, "Yeah, Vivian, follow me, come and take notes." And that was the best ever. And that's actually built me to where I am right now. So that is it.
Thank you for sharing. Olamide, finally.
Okay, two instances outside with one. When I say where I once worked, despite what everybody said about the director I was literally working with, I was surprised and shocked to get a recommendation to actually work with another director. Or they were like, oh, based on how you work and this, you need to work with this director. I was actually felt honored. I was like, okay, you know, if it literally came from someone who is just like, oh, we all know this person gives, or someone who everybody just says, oh, this person is like this, you have to be scared. And when I got that, I was like, oh wow, I'm really honored. So that's really got to me. The second part was also when I was actually recognized as now when I started my career. I was recognized as one of the best talents, or let's say new employees who actually performed outstandingly. I got rewarded for it. It was touching, literally. So that's it. So ends.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you to our amazing panelists. We learned a lot. I think one of the things that was heavily touched on directly and indirectly is improving company culture, company policy. So anywhere we have been lackadaisical or lax about it, I think we all need to go back, take a look at these things. How do we ingrain better culture within our organization? So once again, we thank you for joining the session. Thank you for those who are, those who are clients, those who are customers, and those who are just visitors. We really appreciate your presence. Have a lovely customer service week, although it's wrapping up tomorrow. Please do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all for joining. We really, really appreciate it. We are very grateful. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Remi, Aruosa, Olamide, Vivian, thank you so much for spending some of your time with us. To all our customers who took their time to be here with us, we thank you. We appreciate this. And we hope that when next we ask you to join us, you would appreciate it. Aruosa and I, we have a very long history, even though we haven't spoken in ages. Yeah, but now we're looking the eyes, we will be able to do this more often, right? Remi, one of these days when we're in Abuja, would come visit. Maybe we'll have some money in our pocket to buy a property in Abuja as well. Olamide, my HR, always my guy anytime. Good to have you. Vivian, thank you so much. Thank you, and let's have a wonderful customer service week, and we will be here again next month for the next series, in the series of our webinars. See you all then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a lovely day. Bye.
One name there.